Oh, Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. It's been a pretty interesting year this year. For anyone who might be listening to the audio or watching the video, this is being recorded at the end of 2016, and 2016 has been a pretty fascinating year. It feels like we have lost more celebrities than we usually do, a lot of fan favorites. And we've had a very interesting election season, probably one of the most venomous ones, certainly that I recall ever seeing. And now we are ready to launch into 2017. And because it is a presidential year with a new president entering into office, we are going to talk today about a 100-day sprint. A 100-day sprint. And now that's calendar-wise, so that you know, if you start on January 1st and you're going to do a 2017 sprint, that's going to be January 1st to April 10th. January 1st to April 10th. Now, in a leap year, that might be a little different. We're starting on a Sunday this year, and so we'll be talking about the next part of this message of what now, what next, actually on the 1st of January. And so we're going to kick off the year with, okay, what are we doing right now? What is today? And what do we have coming up next and coming up soon? So the 100-day sprint, the first 100 days since 1933. 1933 is about the first time we started looking at things in a 100-day block as far as government is concerned. We've noted the actions of new presidents by their first 100 days. Our new incoming president has set forth his first 100-day plan. This has gotten to be a fairly typical of presidents of what I'm going to accomplish in my first 100 days, or more precisely, it's what I'm going to try to do in the first 100 days, because frankly, a lot of it, the president himself has a nominal amount of control over. He can ask for it, he can try to get it done, he can ask for things to be passed, he can make proposals, but ultimately our president doesn't have a final authority, but we still mark what he at least tries to do in the first 100 days. When a new president takes office, and we're evaluating a new president, we will typically look back at the first 100 days sometime after the 100 days is gone. Now the first 100 is unusual. This isn't a normal way that normal people or businesses mark time. Businesses tend to work in quarters, roughly 90 days. They tend to work in years. People often will organize their own lives by days, weeks, months, sometimes quarters, sometimes years. So one of the values of doing something like a 100-day sprint is that it's an unusual way to mark time. And when you're doing something unusual, it helps your brain process as, this is different. When you use an unusual way to mark time, when you don't use a standard day, week, month, your brain processes it a little bit differently, because this isn't the way you usually think about time. Different helps break old patterns. Very often we are where we are because of the habitual behaviors that we have, that we had things that we did, then we did it again, and it became a habit. And it's just our normal pattern of behavior. Sometimes our pattern is even somewhat ritualized. We just we get up and we do it on autopilot. I mean, most people don't wake up in the morning and debate, like, oh, do I want to shower this morning? You either do or you don't. In my case, typically in the morning I don't. My usual shower routine is at night before I go to bed. For some people, it's in the morning. It's just automatic. They don't think about it. You don't think about, oh, am I going to brush my teeth today? Oh, am I going to shave today? You just do it. It's an automatic ritual. It's on autopilot. It creates the habits that you have. But when you do something different, you can break old patterns. It's a chance to set a new pattern, to accomplish new things. We often need to break those old patterns, because new things require new patterns. New things require new behaviors, and we need to make those behaviors into a pattern and hopefully run our sprint long enough to generate some new habits. We want to break the patterns that create and sustain the things that we're trying to change, to create and sustain the things that we have now that we want to upgrade, that we want to shift, that we want to end, that we want to make different in some way. Now, on the other hand, and this part is rarely talked about in any kind of a goal-setting scenario, and this is true even when I'm teaching on goal setting. If we are making all the progress that we want, at a pace we want, well then by all means keep doing what is already working. So if you are getting from here to there at a good clip, and you're doing a good job, you don't need to change anything. Just keep going. Just because we're coming into a new year, just because we're talking about a 100-day sprint, if your life is already pretty fast-paced, if your life is already structured so that everything is harmonized the way you want it harmonized, balanced the way you want it balanced, you're making the choices you want to make, you're getting where you want to go, you're getting there at the pace you want to get, there's no need to sprint on anything. You're already doing it. Connected to this is the realization that very often we have more success than we feel. We are already having some measure of success. I mean, 2016 wasn't a complete disaster. Stuff got done. And if we are aware of that success, it helps us keep going. Sometimes we feel we haven't achieved. And it's because we feel what we haven't done. We see what we wish we would have done and we haven't done it. We see what we wish we would have achieved and we haven't achieved it. And we feel that. If we set a goal for $100,000 of personal income, if I decided, like, I want $100,000 this year, and I only made 60. Well, what is typical is that we might feel $40,000 of failure. I had this goal. I went for it, and I blew it. I didn't even come close. And you completely missed the fact you had $60,000 of success. And that you end up looking at the failure instead of looking at the success. It's well worth balancing awareness of both. To both be aware of the success and of the failure, not just one or just the other. Now, part of the reason for this is that momentum is the great multiplier. And we can worksheet momentum, and in fact, in your handouts, you have a worksheet for momentum. But even if you don't have the handout, do the work. Do the work. Because knowing what your momentum is powerful. And you don't want to throw away that power. Momentum is a power multiplier. Whatever it is you're trying to do, if you already have momentum, it is so much easier to get stuff done. Once you have momentum, you just need to steer it. It is far easier to keep going than to get going. It is easier to speed up when you're already in motion. It's easier to maintain a habit than it is to begin a habit. There's power in momentum. And therefore there is power in realizing how much momentum you already have. And we might have more than we realize. So for a little bit, we're going to focus on that. We're going to focus on the momentum. We're going to try to see some of the momentum we already have. And there's a series of questions to ponder. Now, I'm going to spend a little bit of time on it, but it's well worth your time to really sit down and spend 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes even on each one of these questions. At least try to sit down and spend at least 5 or 10 minutes on each question. The first question is, what did I do really well this year? What did I do really well? And that doesn't even have to be as good as you wish it was. It was just good. It's one of the things when, talking to this a teenage girl who's really, really flexible. Says, oh, I feel stiff today. It's like, I aspire to be as stiff as you are today. Be like if I'm saying, oh, I feel so slow today when I'm doing my martial arts stuff, and people go like, I would love to be as slow as you. That if her flexible, if my slow is so much better than other people can do, I need to recognize that. What did I do really well this year? What did you do really well this year? Even if it wasn't as good as you wanted it to be, even if it didn't fulfill, some goal or even some fantasy you had of how great or how perfect you hoped it would be, because reality collided with the goal, that happens, but it's still really good. And in some areas it might be really good under the circumstances. We're given the totality of the circumstances, the things that impacted it, the things that may have derailed it or partially derailed it or interrupted it. And you still got this far. What did I do really well this year? The second question to ponder. In what areas did I grow? In what areas did I grow? Did I learn stuff? Maybe I read some books. I listened to some audios. I attended some seminars. I took some classes. I did some training. In what areas did I grow? Where I am better now than I was before. In the last year, I couldn't even tell you off the top of my head how many seminars I've attended, how many days of training I've attended in various things. Various individual 1-hour seminars incident to a larger convention, or multi-day seminars by a single teacher with a couple of hour chunks here and there from other instructors. How many audios I've listened to, how many videos I've watched. That I am ending my year with 365 plus what I would call AV credits, audio video credits. Now here's how the credit system works that I use. If it's an audio, 1 hour equals 1 credit. If it is a video or a live seminar, something where I can't be listening to it in the car, I can't be listening while I'm doing something else, it requires my full attention, the 1 hour equals 2 credits. And it's of the actual teaching and or workshopping time. So if it's one of those things where it's an 8-hour seminar from 10 until 6, but we have an hour off for lunch, that's not 8 hours, that's 7 hours. If it's a live seminar, then you multiply by 2, that's 14 credits. So in that format, I've gotten 365 plus credits this year. So you figure I must have grown in some of those areas, right? If I'm listening to all of those audios, if I'm watching all those videos, if I'm attending all of those live seminars, I should know some stuff. I should have grown this year in a meaningful way. Likewise with book reading. In several years in the past, I've targeted at least 52 books in a year. This year I scaled it back. I'm down to about 36, about 3 in a month. For a lot of people, if you can do a book a month, you are doing well. What are you learning? In what areas are you growing? What books have you read? What seminars have you attended? What classes have you taken? What have you been learning? What have you been doing that has created growth? What has created a shift in you that you are more now? In any given area, you may have felt like you're atrophying or you're retreating in some areas of your life, but you're getting better in others. In what areas did you grow? The third question, which is related to the second question. What did I learn about myself? What did I learn about myself? Now, ideally, it's learning a new thing. Very often, it's just realizing an old thing. Realizing maybe an old thing is still true. I mean, I've had some realizations in this last year of some things I've been learning about myself, of things that are true or still true, that really I might rather they weren't. But the self-realization and the stepping forward in some of these areas is momentum. That the deeper I'm willing to go in myself, to really find these things and deal with them and work with some of these old rituals and old patterns and what I've done with what I've learned about myself. And this is just in the negative side. We're not even talking about the awesome side. Because then you have the flip side of this. What did I learn about myself that's awesome? Because sometimes you learn some stuff about yourself you really kind of wish weren't true. Sometimes you learn some stuff about yourself that you go, wow, that was great. One of the things sometimes is you have this idea of yourself, but it's never really been put to the test. You have this idea of what you can do or what you can accomplish or how you would handle something, but it hasn't come up yet. And maybe in this year, some of those things have come up. Maybe in this year that you've been wise enough and mature enough to face some of your weaknesses and deficiencies. That is incredible insight that leads to wisdom and maturity and growth and feeds into the growth. And for what areas you have grown and what areas you want to grow. But just as powerful and for momentum purposes even more powerful is when what you've learned about yourself proves you are who you thought you were. You really can do what you wanted to believe you could do. That it got put to the test and you passed. You found out you were capable of things maybe you didn't even know you were capable of until you went through it. And you handled it beautifully. That you got squeezed. And what came out of you was what you wanted to believe was in there. And sometimes, and what did I learn about myself? When you really reflect on that, you realize, I found out something about me that really is awesome. And by awesome, what I mean by that is, if I could teach this to other people, if other people could do what I've done, that would be a good thing. If I had a kid, I'd want to teach this to my child. If I had someone coming to me for coaching or mentoring, I would want to teach this to them. And when you've learned these things about yourself, that's how you can tell if it's awesome. Some of us, honestly, we're too humble for our own good. We go, it's just me. And sometimes I do that. I forget that what to me is day-to-day normal isn't normal for everybody. And we all do this because, my normal is my normal. And if you learn something that's like, I would want to teach this to my children. I would want to teach this to a young man or a young woman who came to me for coaching. I learned this about me. And I would love to see this ripple out and ripple down the generations. That's learning awesome stuff about yourself. And there's something else for this year, coming into the fourth group. These are actually three things, and so you might list them together. Accomplishments, lessons, next steps. This isn't a cluster here. Accomplishments is what did you accomplish? Lessons connected to the accomplishments. In the process of accomplishing that, what did you learn connected to that accomplishment? Did you learn something that would let you do it better? Did you learn something that would let you do it bigger? Did you learn something that would let you do it faster? Did you learn something that would let you do it less expensively? And then what are your next steps? Is it done? It's possible there's no next steps. There was a beginning, middle, and end. It's done, never going to repeat. But chances are high that there is a next step. That there's something else to do with that accomplishment. There's some other application for the lesson. And it could be something simple. Like, we recently had a dojo party. It's very typical that we have the youth side and the adult side come together, and very often at the banquet and the Christmas party and the demonstration at the fair, those are really the three times that the young side and the older side come together and they all see each other. Well, this year we also have a sub who does a different karate. And so we folded that side in too. And we tried a new game. We're sunsetting a game that we used to play, and we're now introducing a new game. And we kind of did the transition. So what did we accomplish? Well, we had an awesome party, and we got it put together really, really well. And we learned some lessons. We ended up having a lot of food this year. Usually the food, mostly all gets eaten. This year we had a lot of food left over, but we didn't have a lot of gifts for the gift exchange. Well, it turns out that's okay because we were going to sunset that game anyway. So, okay, so we don't have to worry about that. What if we were going to do it again next year? Well, if we were going to do it again next year, then we would have to figure out, well, what's the lesson in this? How do we make sure that these get there so that, I'm not putting in 13 spare gifts to get to the end of the game? And what would be the next step in that? How do we organize that for next time? And so it could be as simple a thing as that. A party. It could be a bigger thing, like a book. And I'm having a book release party in a couple of weeks. And when you start to look at some of these things, you go, okay, what did I accomplish? What did I get done? What are some of the things I learned about that process? And what's the next step with that? What's my next book? Maybe what you accomplished is, you might have targeted getting an entire book done. Or 3 books done. Whatever your target was. And you didn't get that far, but you got this far. You accomplished, the first 4 chapters. Okay, and what have you learned? What's your next step? Maybe it wasn't as fast as you wanted, or as far as you wanted, or as profound as you wanted. But now what are your next steps? What is the momentum you do have? So what did I do really well this year? In what areas did I grow? What did I learn about myself? What are some of my accomplishments, the lessons learned in the process of accomplishing that? And what are my next steps? The next 3 questions. The first of the next 3 is, how did my life change this year? How did my life change this year? What's different now from a year ago? And you could round it off a bit. That kind of my round off is a little over a year ago. Like, what's different now from about 13 months ago? What's happened to me? And then, so for me, because last December was a transition month for me. Last December, I made a transition from one thing to like a whole different way of going about a bunch of stuff in my life. And then this December, I'm doing the same thing. So for me, it seems to be more like December to December than January to January. And so I'm reflecting on, how did my life change in the last 13 months? A lot of it for me is, I finally decided I was going to step out, embrace my singleness, and go for the awesomeness of being single and adventuring, in this particular case in Las Vegas. And in the course of my time in Las Vegas, I met a whole bunch of people. I met some pretty high-end people. Sometimes quite by surprise, just because of the way I do things. Not going out of my trying to network with these people and connect with them professionally. I just kind of ran into them and hit it off with one person who introduced me to somebody else, where I met other people, and it just snowballed. And that was a way my life changed. I decided, it's been a long time since I've done anything like this just as a single person. Let me just go out and let me do the single socializing thing, and let's see what happens. Let's see if things are much different than 20 years ago, which was kind of the last time I had any of that stuff to do. So my life really changed. And it changed in some pretty amazing ways, where then you get invited to after parties, end up having half-day chunks with high-end fashion designers that allow me to bring my team to meet them and see their boutique. Getting to take my team to sold-out shows and hang out with some of the performers after, and getting tickets to another big show coming to the end of another friend's run, and getting to go backstage with them, and all of these things that kind of just flowed out of ways my life changed in this last year. The seminars I've taught. The unusual thing with even this lesson, that I taught a compressed version of these lessons to a mastermind group with American Dream University. And just to be thinking about the fact that there are people paying hundreds of dollars a month to be in a mastermind where the core value they are receiving is me teaching 2 of these lessons in a month. Paying up to $200 per lesson that they are receiving. And that gives a different sense of value to it. Not just to me doing it, because I have an idea what my time is worth when I'm teaching, and I have an idea what value this has. But being able to let the students reflect on that when I'm doing the chats. For you guys, when you're listening, to realize you're getting material that people pay hundreds of dollars to get an hour of. How did my life change this year? What am I proud of? And if I look back at the year and go, these are some things worth remembering. These are some things worth coming back to revisit. I did good. If I can do that again, that would be good. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I did something the way I did it. I'm glad I did something at the scale I did it. I'm glad I remembered to include something that maybe I might not have otherwise included. Whatever it is, what are you proud of? Not in an arrogant, prideful, look at me, I'm the most awesome person on the planet kind of way. But just when you look at stuff and go, I did good. I did some of the kind of things that I would encourage someone I love to do. That my adult children came to talk to me later on in life, and they're asking me about this kind of thing. I would encourage them to step up and do something like that. This is the type of thing that I would talk about if my kids did it, if my friends did it. That's the kind of thing we're talking about here. What are you proud of? What's like a little feather in your cap? What's a point up on the board for you there? And the last one, and this is critically important too. What am I grateful for? What am I grateful for? Now we talk about attitude of gratitude. Be thankful for everything you would not want to lose. Be thankful for everything you would not want to lose. And very often we get so fixated on what's not exactly the way we want it to be that we forget that a whole bunch of life is what we want it to be. Something that I hear from time to time is someone says, well, it can't get any worse. Like, don't say that. The universe might take that as a challenge. It's already awesome. And there's so many great things that sometimes we forget all the great things we have because we fixate on what we don't have. And another momentum question as we transition into our 100 days. What's already queued up? What's already set up? What's already in the calendar? What is already queued up for the next year? Because we're not starting with a complete blank slate. We already have stuff on our calendar. We already have stuff in our schedule. We already have routines that we're in. We may already have a job or a project or school. What's already queued up kicks off our 100-day sprint. It's already in there. It's already in the schedule. We know that some of our first 100 days is already set up. If you look at your schedule, a bunch of stuff is already in your schedule. A bunch of stuff is already in your calendar. My January schedule and February schedule is beginning to fill up. Stuff is starting to show up in my March schedule too. We already have momentum on these things. We already know that it's happening. So long as nothing derails us. If something derails us, obviously, maybe not. But we have stuff coming. And as we consider our 100-day sprint, we might think about it in terms of business. We might think about it in terms of physique, that we want to build the body that we wish that we had. We might think of it in terms of our training and all of the hard work stuff. We're going to get in there. We're going to push it. We're going to make it happen. But here's something else about the 100 days. The 100 days also includes about 28 weekend days. Now think about this. If you do conventional work, Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, you have 5 days of work, 2 days off. If that's not your schedule, somewhere in your schedule you have time off and or days off, right? I mean, my days off aren't typically the weekend. My usual day off is Tuesday if I can afford to take it. And what I call a day off is if there's less than 4 hours of work, 4 hours of responsibilities, 4 hours of productivity, that's a day off. 4 to 8 hours, for me, I call that a half day. 8 to 12 hours is a regular day, and anything over 12 hours is a long day. And it's not just like, sitting down doing work. It includes, other responsibilities and errands and stuff where you have stuff you have to do. But because our 100-day sprint includes these 28 weekend days, it reminds us of something. It reminds us that we're not just sprinting on business goals. We're not just sprinting on financial goals. We're not just sprinting on physique goals. We're not just sprinting on academic goals. It's not just the work, but also recreation goals, family goals, relationship goals, and other personal goals. These things factor into it too. Now, it's possible that we're not sprinting on those things. In fact, it's possible that we might be taking away from those areas to focus on something, and that's okay. But we do it intentionally. So say, for instance, if I have a primary relationship, say I'm married and I have kids, but my 100-day sprint is going to limit my time with my wife and my kids, that I need to negotiate that with them rather than just disappear. And we're going to get into some of this. But you might be sprinting on some of those too. You might be sprinting on your social goals. You might be deciding, as part of my sprint, I'm going to connect with people I tend to not connect with. All those people I keep saying, we should get together and do lunch. I'm going to plan lunch with them. So, we should get together and have coffee. We should get together and do something. Well, let's get together and do something, and let's make that part of the sprint. Put that on the list. That's a goal. By the end of the 100 days, I'm going to connect with these people, and we're going to try to have coffee or lunch or dinner or go out. I might even just throw a party and invite all of them over and get them all done at once. But I can't let these people keep going that I haven't seen them for 6 months or 12 months or 2 years. Some of the people I'm going to see next year, I haven't seen for a year. And so I'm really trying to make it a point to make some of these connections. That when I realize I've let an entire year go by without seeing somebody. When I'm in town, if I don't see my Ohio family, social media, that's what social media is for. I'm not in Ohio. But when I've got friends in Las Vegas, and I've been there 2 times in a row, and I haven't seen them either time just because I didn't get out to them, I'm going to try to do something about that. That's part of my sprint. That's a social sprint. And whatever other personal goals you might have. You might have been one of those where you're an artist, but you haven't drawn anything for a long time. You haven't painted anything for a long time, and you might decide, darn it, it's 100-day sprint. I'm going to draw something. Or sometimes I get so wrapped up in my book writing and my journal writing and all of the coaching stuff I do and the discussion subjects I do, I forget about my creative writing. I actually sat down with my creative writing project, and I was going to look at writing a story, and I saw that the last story I wrote was a Christmas story from last year. I went the entire year without writing a story. That could be in my 100-day sprint. I'm going to get at least one story written. And I don't do super long stories. I'm talking about, a 10-page story. And do something with that in the next 100 days. Your 100-day sprint might include a vacation or other significant social event. It might not include doing it within the next 100 days, but prioritizing planning it in the next 100 days. So when April 10th rolls around, you know what you're doing. You have plans. Maybe it's something you can go do in the summer. And now you know where you're going to go. You know what you're going to do. You have it booked or at least investigated. And you're ready to go. So when you're setting your plans, we have our 3 basic questions. What do I choose? What is my plan? And how is that working out for me? But because we're also talking about momentum for a sprint. The power of momentum is huge. So in what do I choose? A sub-question to consider is, what goals will I keep? that I already have this goal on my list? Am I going to keep it? What of the goals I have, I'm going to keep it. I'm going to keep it exactly as it is. I'm not going to make it bigger. I'm not going to make it smaller. I'm not going to change. It's just going to stay just the way it is. The next question is, what goals will I upgrade or add? Usually when we talk about goal setting, we just tend to think about, well, what are my goals going to be for this year? Well, you might already have some goals you're already working on. You're kind of chugging along, and it's just perfect the way it is. But you may take some of the goals you already have, and you're going to upgrade them a bit. You're going to say, you know, that I can do a little bit more. I can do a little bit better. Maybe I can do a lot more. Maybe I can do a lot better. And I'm going to shift that up. And then, of course, what we constantly think about is, and what new goals am I going to put in that I'm not already working on, I don't already have, so it's not an upgrade. I'm just going to put it in, something I just haven't been doing. So say if I decide I'm going to do a physique goal, I really haven't been working that much on my physique. I've more been focusing on my general health and just being able to do all the things. This is my normal day. If I decide I want to do a physique, well then that's, what does the body look like? If I want to do a fitness, then that would be, well, what can the body do? And I'm fit enough for what I want to do. I don't quite have the physique. If I decided to, like, well, I want the physique, well, I probably wouldn't target my physique. For my fitness, I'm happy with what my body can do. For my health, I've got pretty good health. But if I decide, okay, I'm going to add this goal. If it's a physique goal, that would be adding. If it's a health goal, that would be an upgrade. If it's a fitness goal, that would be an upgrade. So what goals will I upgrade or add? And then this one, which somehow we managed to not think about a lot. What goals will I downgrade? What goals will I downgrade or delete? That maybe I have a goal, but I'm looking at the goal and say, you know, I'm going to kind of scale that back a bit for a while. Maybe you're just going to scale it back for the 100-day sprint. Maybe it could be like, you know, I'm just not going to spend as much time with my romantic partner. Maybe, you know, you've decided spending, you know, 24/7 with them, and, you know, that maybe should be permanently scaled back some for other things. But it might just be for these 100 days, I'm going to scale that back. It might be some things you're just going to delete. So you might be coming in to, say, next academic semester, and you were kind of looking, I'm going to do a full load this time, straight A's, 15 units, let's go for it. But you might look at it and say, you know, actually, since I'm working, I'm training, I'm doing all these other things, maybe a 15-unit course load would be a bit much. And as you balance it all out, you might find that you're not doing nearly as much as you would wish you were doing if it was in a vacuum all by itself and that was the only thing you had to do. But in the totality of your life, you might go, you know, maybe I should scale that back to 9 units. Maybe I should scale that back to 6 units. Maybe I should just take one class, because it's a pretty rough class. And just make a little bit of progress. And downgrade the goal. Sometimes you may even delete a goal. And say, you know, I've been doing this, it's really not working, it's really not worth it, I just need to drop it. Peter Drucker, I think, was the one who said, you know, one of the biggest problems with executives is the executives keep developing these to-do lists. Because what we really need is some people to have to-don't lists. Because otherwise what happens is, imagine if I have a to-do list and I've got 6 hours of stuff I need to do during my workday. And then I add more stuff, and I have 7 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours of stuff. And I really only want to work 8 hours. Well, I need to figure out what of that 2 hours can I just drop? Not push off to another day that also has 10 hours of stuff. But is there anything I'm doing? I could just stop. I don't need to do it. Is there anything that I can chunk together with something else? So it doesn't have to take up the same amount of time it has to take up. I mean, just as simple a thing as you know, I was thinking recently, we had a bulb burn out. I had to go get an 8-foot bulb with a single pin on the end. And you know, I'm typically pretty good with errands, where you cluster all your errands, you head out one time, get them all done, come back. But because I had made a mistake, I pulled the bulbs from the bin, but I didn't look at the end to make sure they were single pin things. And when I was installing the bulb is when I realized, this is the wrong bulb. And I had this feeling, because it didn't cost what I thought it was supposed to cost, but I had bought some other things with it, and I thought, maybe that's why it's more expensive. Well, because I got the wrong bulb. So this time I had to go make a trip just for the bulb on a separate day, a separate trip, when I wasn't going out anyway. And it's like, but it makes me reflect on, are there other areas in my life where I do that? Where I do things in a way where I'm not making good use of my time. Where I'm doing things in individual pieces, when if I just attached it to this thing, cuts my work in half, cuts my time in half. Are there other ways I could make, better use of any resources, not just time, but time, gasoline, being out, being about, my social time. Are there any ways I could be more effective with that? So that way I can take it off of a list of individual things and toss it over there. So I'm downgrading or kind of eliminating this as a separate category, while I'm upgrading that category, because I can take this thing out from here that's a 45-minute thing if I do it by itself. If I attach it over here, now it's a 20-minute thing. So what do I choose? What goals will I keep? What goals will I add? What goals will I delete? Of the goals I'm keeping, what will I upgrade and what will I downgrade? And then what is my plan? Same sort of thing. What actions will I keep up? What am I already doing? I'm going to keep on doing it the way I'm doing it. And of course, what actions will I upgrade? Where I'm already doing it, but I'm going to upgrade what I'm doing. Maybe I'm going to spend more time in it. Maybe I'm going to increase the intensity of it. Maybe I'm going to increase the level of focus. Maybe I'm going to adjust the schedule so that I can be more zeroed in on it. In some way that I'm going to take an action plan I already have and I'm going to step it up in some meaningful way that can adjust my outcomes. What new actions am I going to add? What am I going to start doing I'm not already doing? And then, of course, what actions will I downgrade? I'm going to do less of this. I'm going to back off of this some. Or just eliminate. I just don't want to do that at all anymore. Maybe it's something you determine is sabotaging stuff. Maybe it's a behavior pattern that you realize is kind of undermining what you're doing, and you just need to delete it altogether. And sometimes it's just you just need to downgrade something. Maybe it could be something as simple as, you jump on social media in the morning, and then you just kind of get sucked in, and then it's lunch. And maybe decide, I really need to spend less time in social media. That the business idea of it is you jump in and you spend about 15 minutes and you make your connections and you kind of have your touch points with your network and your tribe, or however that is, and connect with the people you want to connect with really quick, and you're in, you're out, you're done. But then there's that political post. Oh, got to make a comment on that, and before you know it, the entire morning part of your workdays got sucked into social media. Maybe you go like, I really need to downgrade that. I really need to get control of that. And then change how you structure it. How much help do you need in order to only spend 15 minutes or 20 minutes or whatever your allotted time is on the thing? And it needs to be downgraded because you realize that's sabotaging the work I'm trying to do. Maybe you have other behavior patterns where stuff crashes in. Like one of the things I would run into sometimes is what I call lawyer mode. Lawyer mode is very analytical. You're looking at both sides. And it's somewhat confrontational. There's sides for lawyer mode. But in relational mode, we are partners, not opponents. And if I realize, I'm bumping my social time into my lawyer time, and I'm showing up in my social time as a lawyer, maybe I need a different action plan there. I need to add something in between lawyer time and social time where I can make that transition. Even if I just make an intentional transition. Because I may not realize how much lawyer is showing up for a lunch with a friend. And that I need to make sure that I'm not doing legal work, or I'm on a legal call with a client or opposing counsel while I'm driving to meet somebody for lunch. And I just need to structure things a little bit different. So what actions will I keep up? What actions will I upgrade? What actions will I downgrade? What actions will I add in? What actions will I take out? And then the third question. How is that working out for me? So it's always, what do I choose? What's the goals? What is my plan? What am I going to do? And the third question is, how is that working out for me? And under this one, consider, what will be my check-in schedule? What will be my check-in schedule? How will I check? Now, in another lesson, we talked about taking steps. And there's the step you can take, and then there's a test. If you pass the test, you can step it up, and now it's up to you. So when we talk about taking steps, that's the part that's up to you. Facing a test, that's the part where now it's not up to you. You don't get to decide that you pass a test. You get to find out if you pass the test. You get to find out if the step that you've taken is enough to pass this test. Now, depending on what you're doing, you might face a test where there's not a winning or a losing. It's a, what's the outcome, and that tells you, do I stay at this level or do I go to the next level? But whatever it is, your check-in schedule should at least include your tests. Ideally, you may want your check-in schedule to include things before your test. So before it matters, before it counts, before it could derail something, to have some method of checking in beforehand and see, how am I doing on my way along the step? The next question, how much help might I need? How much help might I need? Do you need a coach? Do you need a mentor? Do you just need a friend? Do you not need any help at all? Do you need to remember to do reminders for yourself so you don't forget stuff? Do you need a calendar? Do you need to set something that's going to give you reminders? Do you need a checklist? I mean, how much help I need isn't necessarily, do I need to hire someone? How much help I need could be as simple as, do I need to have a system to keep track of all of these things? And then here's a big one that gets overlooked sometimes. How might I celebrate my success? How might I celebrate my success? If I get across a finish line, what's the celebration? It could be a similar thing like, all right, on to the next thing. And for some people, that's all the celebration they do, if that. But you might decide, you know, if we cross this threshold, we're going to Disneyland. I just went to Disneyland last Tuesday. Disneyland in California Adventure with a friend of mine. And it was a lot of fun. And it was like a celebration day. Because 2016 has been a pretty awesome year. Hasn't accomplished everything I would like it to have accomplished, but for the goals that I set, that I worked for, I did all right. And a lot of good things happening, a lot of good things being queued up for the next year. And I wanted to go to Disneyland. I wanted to go to Disneyland last year, but I couldn't get, you know, the boys all set up and other people ready to go. And I said, you know, I'm just going to go on my own. When I get some of these things done, I'm going. So how are you going to celebrate your success? Something as extravagant as a Disney day or a weekend? Something much more simple like, you know, just going to a nice place for dinner or a nice place for a lunch or going out to a dinner and a movie or a show or something? You know, whatever it is for you, whatever is a celebration for you. So for the 100-day sprint, start planning the first days. You don't have to plan the whole 100 days. Just start planning the first days. The more momentum you already have, the more your first days might already be pre-planned for you. You might already know what your schedule is for the first week or two. Your plan then will begin with keeping up or just upgrading the things you are already doing. You just keep on doing what you've been doing. And you know, provided, of course, it's already working for you. And then stay centered on what is most important to you and harmonize any competing goals. Now, say harmonize instead of balance. And this is part of what. So suppose you're trying to do something and say something you want to do, it's going to require about a 4-hour commitment out of you every day. Okay. And then, but you've got this other goal, maybe that's a business goal, and then you've got this other goal of a parenting family goal, and that's going to take about 4 hours. Well, you can balance 4 hours, 4 hours. But then you also have your 8-hour work day. And you go, Okay, that's got to be over here. All right. And now I've got, this other project that I'm trying to get done, on the house, the back porch. And well, pretty soon you run out of waking hours. How do you balance things when they don't all fit? Now you're going to necessarily be out of balance. But the idea of harmonizing them is when you begin to run out of resources, whether the resource is time, which is the one we all run out of, or the resource is money, or the resource is anything. When you get to the end of your resources, where now balance is no longer possible, now you say, I need to create harmony. How do I craft this in a reasonable way so it may or may not be balanced, but you make it intentional? Here are my goals. This is my resource. I've got to make these resources work with those goals. I need to make some decisions. And you make some wise decisions. That's what we call harmonizing them. And that process by itself is easily an entire weekend seminar, workshop intensive. So obviously I'm not going to do that in 3 minutes as incident to a different message. And look at what might need to be scaled back. Look at what might need to be eliminated in order to make room for new things. What might you want to add for day one? Do you even have any room in day one? If you have any room in day one, which January 1st this year is a Sunday, what are you going to be doing on that Sunday? What's your Sunday going to look like? What's your first day of this new year going to look like? For a lot of people, the first day of the new year is going to look like I started it at midnight and then I slept in and now I am recovering from last night's party. Presuming I start 2017 the same way I started 2016, I will be praying in the new year. And I did that in 15, 14, ever since 1989 turned into 1990. As midnight crossed where I was praying. And that's how I've ushered in every new year since then as well. Sometimes a short prayer, sometimes a long prayer. Sometimes 10 or 15 minutes, sometimes 2 or 3 hours. What will it be this year? I don't know yet. Don't know yet. Just sort of sometimes find out when I get into it. It's kind of open-ended for me this year. So whether it ends up being a short one and I feel done, I'll stop. If I feel like I am being drawn in, I'll keep praying until I feel like I am done praying. That's how I will begin the year. That kicks off midnight day one. That's what I will already be doing. What else will I be doing in day one? Well, I'll be teaching part 2 of this lesson, for one. And what else will I be doing? Haven't really decided yet, to be honest. Haven't really decided. But before that day comes along, I will have. What might you want to add for day 2? That's the Monday. That is the first Monday of the year. Now, a lot of businesses, depending upon where you work, they're taking that day off this year because New Year's Day is on a Sunday. So a lot of businesses will be closed. Mine will be open. And so for you, it might be day 3. What's your first day of work going to look like? What's your first business day going to look like? What are you going to be doing on that day? Plan at least through your first check-in, if your first check-in is more than a week away, or at least plan through your first week. Know what you're doing from Sunday through the following Saturday at least before that Sunday gets there. Know the things that you don't have to have it like a schedule all worked out, although you may. But at least so you know what you're doing. So in any given day, you can grab a piece of paper or you can open a file or something and know, this is what's on my list. This is what I'm doing. So you can go do it. And if by chance you happen to get done, you might even have a backup list of, if I have time, these are the low priority items. They'll have to get done sometime. But if I actually get caught up or ahead of my goal because I'm sprinting, I've got these other things I can do. Which might be as simple a thing as, go run some errands or, catch up on a favorite television show. Kind of, some light worky stuff or some recreation stuff or some entertainment stuff that if you have time, then you give yourself permission to go to that list. And just set your plan. And as we get ready for a 100-day sprint, January 1st through April 10th, for us, 2017, but you can do this anytime. You don't have to do this in an election year. And you can do a sprint of any length of time. It doesn't have to be 100 days. You can decide, I'm going to do a 7-day sprint. I'm going to do a 3-day sprint. Heck, you can decide, I'm going to do a 4-hour sprint. A 1 hour sprint. I'm going to make this next hour awesome. A lot of people do sprints at work before they leave on vacation. They want to have everything done so there's nothing they have to do while they're gone. I tend to do some of my best cleaning and organizing work before I leave on vacation. Because I have stuff out on my desk, kind of the out of sight, out of mind thing, so I keep it in sight. Well, if I'm leaving on vacation, I'll just get it all cleaned up and put away. Well, cleaned up, put away means I need to be done with it. And that there's a pre-departure sprint that a lot of people do before you go to vacation. Sometimes people have the most productive days and the day or two before vacations. So whatever your sprint length is going to be, doesn't have to be 100 days, and whatever it is you decide to set, you get to decide. And just to circle back and touch on your momentum goals, to know the momentum you have as we launch into the new year. What did I do really well this year? In what areas did I grow? What did I learn about myself? What were my accomplishments, the lessons I learned from or through the process of those accomplishments, and any next steps regarding those? How did my life change this year? What am I proud of? What am I grateful for? What's already queued up? And get ready to launch into the next year with your own sprint. A 100-day sprint, perhaps. Maybe something shorter than that. Maybe something longer than that. But keep in mind, it's a sprint. It's not supposed to be what normal life looks like. This is supposed to be an unusual time. You don't have to do a full 100 days. Like, you could even set up a 7-day sprint and kind of see how it goes and decide, can I keep it up? And that's totally okay too. So, I hope you've had an interesting 2016, and we're all looking forward to an awesome 2017. And of course, if you're listening to the audio or watching the video at some later year or later time in the year, feel free to decide a sprint to start now. Doesn't have to be with the new year. Could be, any milestone you like. Or you could just decide, I'm going to do this tomorrow because tomorrow's Tuesday and I may as well start something on Tuesday. Totally okay. I tend to like calendar-based milestones. But, life changes are good too. Or just because, heck, day after tomorrow's a good enough day to start. So I'm going to spend today and tomorrow working my plan, and then I'm going to start implementing right after that. That's good too. Just decide what you want your life to look like, and then go make it happen. Thank you.